Hey, welcome back to Golden Blue Dude. Hey, if you like the content that I put out, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. And hey, even if you don't like the content and you want to tell me what I did wrong, that works too. Let's roll. Usually I put out videos that covers all of college football, but today's going to be a West Virginia video. So if you're a subscriber and you're not a West Virginia fan, you're more than welcome to stick around. I'm just letting you know. I wanted to talk about the offensive issues that West Virginia has and what we need to do to correct them. And there's a lot of them. We already know that Garrett Green entered the transfer portal, and a lot of West Virginia fans are actually happy about that. I was up and down on Garrett Green, but overall, he didn't meet expectations. So right now, here's what our quarterback room looks like. We have quarterback Will Crowder. His only experience, 2 passes. He was 2 for 2 for 28 yards. Not really all that much game experience. We also have quarterback Garrett Green. He was 19 for 30. That's 63.3%. Just 147 yards. He's better on the ground. 54 carries for 337 yards, 6.2 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns. And then there's incoming 4-star freshman phenom Nicco Marchiol. And he's out of Chandler, Arizona. And a lot of people think that he's going to win the quarterback battle. But in my opinion, I think we also need somebody for him to learn under as well. That's a tall order for a true freshman. The thing that really made me raise my eyebrows was the quarterback for Oklahoma, Caleb Williams. He's actually entered the transfer portal. This would actually be a big pickup for West Virginia. Last year, he was 137 for 212, 64.6%, threw for 1,916 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He's also good on the ground. Great dual threat quarterback. 79 carries for 442 yards, 5.6 yards a carry, and 6 touchdowns. Now, he has only 1 year in college football, but that's more experience than Nicco Marchiol. I think that would be an interesting quarterback battle if West Virginia were to be able to get Caleb Williams out of the transfer portal. Other than that, there's not really any other Power 5 quarterbacks in the transfer portal worth pursuing. I mean, you do have Zach Calzada out of Texas A&M, but he was 184 for 327. That's just 56.3%. Threw for 2,385 yards, 17 touchdowns, but 9 interceptions. And he's not a dual threat quarterback, so that's not an option for West Virginia right now. It would be better to not get anybody than to get Zach Calzada. Other big name quarterbacks that have transferred, Kedon Slovis transferred from USC to Pitt. Man, how did Pitt get that guy? I don't understand that. Why did he make that decision? I think that's going to come back and bite him in the rear end. Bo Nix transferred from Auburn to Oregon. That's an interesting transfer right there. I kind of like that. And Max Johnson transferred from LSU to Texas A&M. Texas A&M does need a decent starting quarterback, so that's not a bad move by Max Johnson. I think he can do well there. Don't get me wrong, I do think that Nicco Marchiol is the future of West Virginia. I just think it's a very difficult position to put him in to make him the starter right off the bat. You're throwing him straight into the fire, which we know he's capable of being a great leader. But you don't want to stunt his growth or make him regress by putting too much pressure on him immediately. That's why I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for West Virginia to try to get Caleb Williams out of the transfer portal. I think that would be a great move for Caleb Williams as well. He could stay in the Big 12. He would actually be playing Oklahoma. And if we got him this year, we would get Oklahoma at home. So I think that would be a pretty good fit for Caleb Williams as well. That's a win-win for Caleb Williams and West Virginia. But there's more issues to West Virginia's offense than just the quarterback. I do think West Virginia needs to go out and get an offensive coordinator along with an offensive line coach. Matt Moore hasn't done a great job with the offensive line. We actually have talent at the offensive line. Here's our offensive starting line from last year, and all these guys are coming back this year. At right tackle, we had freshman Wyatt Millen, 4-star out of Huntington, West Virginia. He has a lot of athleticism, a lot of potential, but he also made some mistakes. At right guard, we have Doug Nestor, the 4-star transfer from Virginia Tech. He had a rough first half of the season, but he started to get better and better and better. At center, we have Zach Frazier, the 3-star out of Fairmont, West Virginia. I think he's one of our best offensive linemen, but of course, people remember him because of that botched snap against Oklahoma that potentially cost us the game. At left guard, James Miter, a 3-star out of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. We saw a lot of improvement out of him. I think he's going to be a much better offensive lineman this year. Then at left tackle, Brandon Yates, the 3-star out of Henderson, Nevada. The biggest issue for Brandon Yates is moving his feet. He does not move his feet quick enough. If he can fix that, he could be a pretty good offensive line. We added some depth and some potential starters out of our 2022 recruiting class. We grabbed offensive tackle Landon Livingston, a 3-star recruit, offensive tackle Sullivan Weidman, a 3-star recruit, offensive lineman guard Maurice Hamilton, a 3-star recruit, and offensive lineman guard Charlie Charlie Katerincic, a 3-star recruit as well. West Virginia's running game wasn't good either, and it's a big blow for West Virginia because Leddie Brown is entering the NFL draft. Running back Tony Mathis Jr., he's coming back, and he showed a lot of improvement over the last 3 games of the season. And we also got 4-star running back Lynn J. Dixon, a transfer from Clemson. So that will also help with our running game. But like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, West Virginia's biggest issue, finding an offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach. We need a change at the top when it comes to the offense. I don't think Matt Moore has met expectations as far as the offensive line. I know we lost 2 key starters from last year's offensive line, but we have a lot of talent on the offensive line, so there's really no excuse as to why we were as bad as we were on the offensive line. So we need a change at the offensive line coach position. But the number one need for West Virginia is offensive coordinator. Jared Parker was not getting it done, and we saw when Neil Brown called the plays, that didn't work either. In 2021, West Virginia was number 87 in offense. That's not good. 4,830 offensive yards and just 38 touchdowns. That's an anemic offense. So here's some names that I have my eyes on as far as where West Virginia could go for an offensive coordinator. Right out of the gate, Zach Kitley out of Western Kentucky, the #1 offense in the nation. They had 7,494 yards and 76 touchdowns. And this guy's really good with quarterbacks. This would be a great pickup for West Virginia if we were to go after Zach Kitley and be able to land him. Another name that's on my radar is Andrew Sowder out of Kent State. They had 6,933 yards and 57 touchdowns. This guy's more of an offensive line, offensive coordinator type of person, so he could actually fit either position as far as offensive coordinator or offensive line coach for West Virginia. So even if we didn't get him for offensive coordinator, we could grab him for offensive line coach. There's also Willie Corn out of Coastal Carolina. Last year they had 6,431 yards and 69 touchdowns. He doesn't have as much experience, but he's proven his worth in a short amount of time. I think he's worth a look at. I'm also looking at Warren Ruggiero out of Wake Forest. They had 6,550 yards of offense and 70 touchdowns. And Wake Forest came really close to winning the ACC. This guy would be a massive pickup for West Virginia if we were able to go get him as our offensive coordinator. And as far as getting a new offensive coordinator, we could actually stay in the state of West Virginia. I'm talking about Tim Crampsey, the offensive coordinator for Marshall. They had 5,938 yards and 56 touchdowns. He would have way more weapons at West Virginia. I think he would be successful, and we wouldn't have to go out of state. Another name I'm looking at is Anthony Tucker out of Utah State. They had 6,238 yards and 54 touchdowns on their way to a Mountain West championship. This guy's also a quarterback person, so he would be a perfect fit with a lot of new faces at quarterback this year. I also like Barry Loney Jr. out of UTSA. Last year they had 6,146 yards and 57 touchdowns. This guy's very good with quarterbacks, very unique concepts when it comes to offensive plays. I think this guy would be a unique fit for West Virginia. And finally, Sam Gregg out of Liberty. They had 5,670 yards and 59 touchdowns. This guy also is more of an offensive line type of guy. But hey, we could also hire him as an offensive line coach if we could get one of these other names as our offensive coordinator. So there's plenty of names to choose from, and that's only a small list. I think those are the best names available. I think West Virginia needs to at least make an effort to try to get these names. Because let's face it, whatever we're doing on offense is not working. We can't stick with the same old because it's just not working. We can't create any explosive plays. Our quarterback, whoever it's going to be, won't have any time to throw the ball if something doesn't change. And our running game will continue to regress. Remember, we're losing Leddie Brown. So even though we get a high-profile transfer in Lynn J. Dixon, if that offensive line can't open up holes, our running game is going to take a step back as well. So some big changes need to happen in Morgantown. I hope we at least make an effort to try to get Caleb Williams out of the transfer portal. I think that would help our quarterback situation. And I hope West Virginia at least makes an effort to get one of these names for either offensive coordinator or offensive line coach. Because if not, once again, West Virginia is going to have a bad offense. I'm not worried at all about our defense. Not at all. Our defense is going to be great. We lost a lot of key players from last year's defense, and it was still pretty good. And a lot of people are talking about how many players from West Virginia are in the transfer portal. Y'all let me know in the comments section, do you think West Virginia is in trouble for the 2022 college football season? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.